the Sooners are down 14 points to Carolina in the first ever meeting. Hawkins, freshman, takes it in the pocket, gets hit as he throws it into coverage again, and picked up again at the 40 of Carolina down the near sideline. That's Eman Worry towards the end zone. Are you kidding me? Touchdown Carolina. Touchdown Nick Eman Worry.
This is 365 Sports.
High throw, it's picked off. Jahdae Barrett taking it all the way back.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Sharp. Drop 8 into coverage. Touchdown, Louisville! Ja'Cory Brooks!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another pick. This one's got space. And Oklahoma is out of bounds at the 2 with Danny Stutzman. What a read by the linebacker.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Muse is knocked down. Jacob Parrish is feeling it.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports. It is the Smokehouse. It's Craig Smoak to my right. I'm David Smoak. Paul's back tomorrow. Garrett out today. Emery's out today. And Andrew Valade running the mothership in his first solo voyage here on 365 Sports. Hope you've had a really good weekend. March Madness, of course, continues. A lot of times it's thought of as just the tournament, but it's not. It's really well before that, because teams that win conference tournaments with getting just one seed, one team in it, that's already happening. We'll get into that a little bit today. Also, the Big 12 tournament, we'll get to that, and also the awards for the 24-25 season. Let's start with this. This is a great story. Eddie George is now the head coach at Bowling Green. We've discussed Bowling Green a couple of different times. He's been at Tennessee State. Eddie George is now the new head football coach. There's an official announcement from Bowling Green that he was the coach. And remember, he interviewed for other jobs and, in fact, was a part of the Chicago Bears search. But he is now the head coach, Craig Smoak, at Bowling Green.
Yeah, good for Eddie George. Cool to see a guy who grew up watching play on Saturdays for Ohio State and then Sundays, obviously, in the NFL for a long time. Good to see him getting the opportunity to, lead another program after the job he did at Tennessee State. And, Scott Loeffler leaves to go to the Eagles, so the job opens up, and they do lose a talented player like Harold Fannin, but it was pretty cool to see that the move they made to come off of that year and then replace Loeffler's to go get a legend like Eddie George. So, he did a nice job, and now his career continues, and hopes to build off what he was able to do there at Tennessee State and have Bowling Green rolling. And if he can get that done, then a pretty cool coach to play for.
This is a pretty good rise with what he's done. A well-respected. He's a Hall of Famer in college football, Hall of Famer in the NFL, had a great career, as you mentioned, at Ohio State. So Eddie George is the head coach. And, Craig, this has come pretty quickly if you really think about it. And it's pretty cool to see him already now trying to move up that ladder, Tennessee State to Bowling Green to whoever knows what might be next.
Like just said, pretty cool for him to get that job and did a nice job at Tennessee State. Like I just said, and, had his 4 years there and won 9 games last year. So now another big opportunity for him to, go and do something at Bowling Green. They do lose their best players, I just mentioned, and, will be some turnover, but don't really know much to say about Bowling Green. Haven't looked at them in depth other than obviously losing Harold Fannin, but beyond that, don't really know yet what he inherits, but that'll come with spring ball and the next few months of learning about all these teams. And so, that's again, a good guy that can recruit, has a football history that's fairly recent that guys can sit there and see for themselves and pretty easily understand. So, yeah, pretty cool, and I think a lot of guys will want to play for Eddie George.
They open up, Bowling Green does, with Lafayette. So there is Eddie George's debut as the head coach at Bowling Green University. Also, this story that Penn State, with their massive stadium, one of the biggest stadiums, that's the picture of Eddie George on camera. Penn State, go back, there you go, naming Beaver Stadium now West Shore home field. At Beaver Stadium, they get $50 million for a 15-year naming rights deal, adding more money to what they have in the athletic department.
Yeah, well, I mean, schools are all looking for as much money as they can possibly get, so not a surprise to see stadium rights becoming more commonplace. And, didn't think that necessarily a Penn State would be one that would jump into that so quickly because you think that they have enough money at their disposal that maybe they could fend off doing straight naming rights. I'd expect the smaller schools will be the ones to do that more often. But then again, everybody needs money, right? Everybody wants money. Everybody wants as much money as they can possibly get. So, I guess not in that way, not surprised to see Penn State go ahead and dip into the naming rights. I saw a lot of backlash to it, and a lot of people not necessarily happy with them going that route, but it's understandable in this day and age that you're going to do what you can to make more money to pay your players. So, definitely not something that you necessarily rooted for, but I don't think we call any of these stadiums by those names anyways. I mean, I don't even know what you just said it's going to be called. I went one in one ear and out the other, and so I'm sure people will still call it, Beaver Stadium or whatever they choose to call it, but it will have a business name or an official title, and that'll put money in the pockets of players to help them try to get over the hump to win the college football playoff. So that's the end goal, and if it does that, then it was successful, but I don't know how many people will actually call it by that name, just like most other naming rights deals. But they won't be they're not the first, they won't be the last, and it's just a matter of how many other people get on board.
All right, Davidson, of course, the home and the alma mater of the great Steph Curry. He will continue to, of course, play in the NBA, and I saw the other night he had 51 or something like that at a game. He now is becoming what will be the assistant general manager at Davidson basketball, both men's and women's basketball. This is a pretty cool story because he's still active. This isn't like all of a sudden with Luck or others who are retired, but a really cool story with Steph Curry. He now will become officially the assistant general manager for basketball programs, the first active player in U.S. major sports to take an administrative job with an NCAA team.
Yeah, that's neat. I don't know how exactly that's going to work outside of just obviously having kind of an ambassador role, but, he's a guy who's as popular as pretty much anybody in the world as far as athletes go, and so much like an Eddie George, except for far fresher, far younger, and much more, still on your TV screens. Imagine if Eddie George has an impact on bringing guys into the Bowling Green program, then Steph Curry certainly has had and will continue to have a lasting impact on people going to his, in particular, alma mater. But, I think that's cool to have him involved as much as you possibly can if you're Davidson. He's going to work with their GM, apparently, who's a guy he knows through Under Armour, so that makes another connection there that makes this make a bit more sense or paints the picture a bit more. So long-standing relationship with that brand, obviously. And, I think it remains to be seen what exactly he's going to be doing and how much he'll have on his plate and how much time he'll have to handle some of that stuff. But why not? I think it's a cool idea. It's not as though he doesn't know how to, he doesn't know the ins and outs of a basketball team and program. So I think that's just a cool thing, even if it was just an ambassador role. But if he's going to be involved, especially as he gets towards the end of his career, that's cool to see, and that's awesome for Davidson.
Yep, and they'll team up. Both he and his wife, Aisha, will team up with the Berman family, who also started 8-figure fund for both the men's and women's programs. The Berman family, Matt, was a soccer player at Davidson and a member of the class of 2005. The Big 12 men's tournament starting, but let's get to those who were honored by the Big 12 Conference. They released these names. Player of the Year, J.T. Toppin. There really was not much debate here. It seemed like every week was either the player of the week or the newcomer of the week. He, of course, with Texas Tech having a great run. JT Toppin, the player of the year. You see as Houston, Joseph Tugler is the defensive player of the year. L.J. Cryer, who had an unbelievable year and was huge on Saturday night as Houston closed out the conference 19-1 with a win in Waco. There's V.J. Edgecombe, the freshman of the year, newcomer of the year. They started changing that up from freshman and newcomer being the same person because of the transfer portal. There's Toppin, Curtis Jones of Iowa State, Richie Saunders, most improved at BYU, and Kelvin Sampson, 19-1. Dominant team as far as winning the conference by laps. Texas Tech was the second, of course, in the conference in regular season.
JT Toppin's an incredible player. No surprise to see him as the player of the year. Fun year for Tech, and he's a big part of the reason as to why. L.J. Cryer feels like he's been playing for like 17 years at this point. I'm just waiting for him to find a sixth year to return to Houston and play there again. But he's had a really, really nice year. Obviously, Houston's right there at the top of this list with a couple of players, and then down there with Coach of the Year, deservedly. 19-1's nothing to sneeze at in any league, much less the Big 12. And I don't know, remains to be seen how good the Big 12 really is. That'll be decided in the tournament, but it's definitely still one of the best leagues in America. And to be 19-1 in that league is pretty phenomenal stuff that I don't know how often we'll see that moving forward. But hats off to Houston. But, yeah, Toppin is player of the year for Tech. I think he's been really, really good, obviously. Cryer, I remember him at Baylor dude, COVID was going on. Like, COVID feels like it was 1,000 years ago. He was playing right after COVID. I think this was maybe the year after the year of. Can't remember exactly now when he started, but he just has been around for forever. So, good for him to still be experiencing success. V.J. Edgecombe, sensational player for what's otherwise a very frustrating Baylor basketball team that's had some valleys and some peaks here and there, but a lot of just adversity. He's been the bright spot throughout this year, and definitely a guy who you expect to keep their draft streak alive, and you'd love to have him back, but he's clearly that kind of guy. So good for him to get the Freshman of the Year honors, and cool to see everybody get their just due here at the end of the year, and I know they'll be arguing over some of it, but in general, I think that's a pretty good summary of the standouts and the highlights of this year's basketball season in the Big 12. And, there's other I think Kevin Young had a pretty good year there as coach, but hard to argue with 19-1.
Grant McCaslin at Texas Tech.
Sure, you can throw him in too, yeah.
So, but when you go 19-1, and to me that ends the story, no matter if other teams were better than maybe some thought, and you mentioned Young at BYU, what a great run they're on, and also what McCaslin did at Tech, splitting the two games with Houston. So there's the Big 12, all Big 12 awards, the various individuals. There's first team and second team, and also a little bit of that. The tournament's starting this week in Kansas City, where TCU just won the women's title on Sunday. There's the bracket. The first games will start on Tuesday, right off the bat, 11:30, Oklahoma State and Cincinnati, TCU, Colorado, K-State, and Arizona State, Utah, and 14th seed UCF will be the other first-round games, and the play-in games based on who wins on Tuesday, playing teams who are awaiting them on Wednesday. I don't know who's going to win the tournament, because it's not always the same team that wins the regular season tournament. Whoever can get hot for a 2-3 game period, and maybe somebody that is not in the tournament, the Big 12 with 8. Baylor, West Virginia locked theirs in. Maybe somebody gets hot, and what does that do? That remains to be seen. That's what makes the conference tournament so exciting. Houston is a minus 130, the favorite to win the tournament. Texas Tech next, and Arizona, Iowa State, and BYU round out the top 5 odds to win the tournament.
Yeah, I think Houston would be the favorite here, obviously. If you go 19-1 in conference play, but doing little mini tournaments are different. So I think it ought to be ultra competitive, and I think plenty of teams will be looking to knock Houston off, but them and Texas Tech and Arizona and BYU just get to sit back for what feels like a while. It's not really a while, but they get to sit back and watch couple of rounds go by before they actually have to lace them up. So, I mean, we'll see. There's as many as 3 opponents sitting there for everybody right now, so there's no real way to tell, although you expect that Arizona's probably going to play Kansas. Texas Tech probably would play Baylor. Houston probably maybe plays West Virginia, and then BYU and Iowa State if you're just going by the high seeds. But, I mean, who the heck knows who might pull some upsets. And obviously you get to closer seeds, like the difference is negligible between a TCU and a West Virginia probably in determining who would go face Houston ultimately. Maybe Colorado pulls the upset. That's why March is fun. You don't really know what to expect, and seeds don't always matter. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to the tournament getting started tomorrow with the first round games, I guess. And then, by Thursday you'll see those top seeds in action as everybody else has a couple of days to tune up that are playing in that first round and then moving on. So maybe somebody gets into a rhythm. But, yeah, I mean, you're looking at probably Houston Tech, Arizona, or BYU, those top 4 seeds that all have first-round byes being your definite favorites to win this tournament and raise the trophy to join Houston as regular season champs. I'm sure the Cougs don't want to let anybody else have any hardware. They'd love to close this thing on out and be, the most dominant team in Big 12 men's basketball history if they go 19-1 and then win the conference tournament. I don't know.
Yeah, if they do both, and then, of course, what they do in the NCAA tournament. But KU was like Oklahoma in football for many, many years. Baylor's 21 championship team obviously had a dominant year too. But, yeah, you go 19-1, win in Kansas City, then go on and do what you do in the NCAA tournament. It doesn't matter really what the tournament, what you finished in the big boy tournament, it does. But as far as in the season of the Big 12, as dominant as anyone's ever been.
Yeah, I would think so. And then, ultimately, that doesn't matter if you don't do anything in the tournament, as you said. So that's the thing that's missing for Houston at this point. Conference titles, they've done that. Conference tournaments, they've done that. Going and winning the national championship, they have not done that. Kansas has done that. Baylor's done that. Texas Tech's gotten close to that. Houston's gotten close to that. But for all the talk about the Big 12, they need a Houston to not be good. They need them to go win the damn championship, or they need Tech to go win the championship to really make a dent. So those are 2 teams that we'll be seeing here in a couple days. But, yeah, for you hoops heads, I mean, this is the time of year you wait so long for and look so forward to. And even non-hoops heads look forward to this time of year as well. So fun to see these tournaments getting started. You mentioned the women, and I'm sure you'll get to more of that, but definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in this men's tournament. And, maybe seeing a Houston, Texas Tech or some matchup like that ought to be a mighty appetizing leading you into the big dance.
Houston has been to 6 Final Fours, and they made it a regular with Guy V. Lewis in 82, 83, and 84. Remember the 83 team that lost to NC State on the alley-oop at the end when they thought that maybe the shot was short. That was the Jim Valvano famous moment. Then they went 27 years and got back to, 37 years, playing, in fact, in the Final Four the year that Baylor beat Gonzaga to win the national championship. The ACC, this is from, this is not meant to be negative, Dan, but here's the ACC stat for today from David Teal. When they closed out their regular season over the weekend, it had 180 conference games. Not one of those games matched teams who were both ranked inside the top 25 in the Associated Press. First time that's happened since the mid-1960s. That's none out of 180 conference games where 2 teams were ranked at the same time playing each other inside the Associated Press top 25. I was like, that's hard to do. That's almost impossible to do, but they just haven't had a very good year. And, of course, they used to be the ones that were thought and known for what they did in men's basketball. So a tough year for the ACC. But let's see what they do in the tournament. The 4 teams that get in, let's see how deep they go, how well they do, and see if they make any kind of noise.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to imagine, especially for such a proud basketball conference. I don't really know what to make of that other than they don't have quite the zest or the juice that they typically would in hoops, and I don't know that the timing's real great for that just in general with the conversations, obviously last week. But if somebody goes out and wins the national championship, then all will be forgotten. I mean, all these stats and things are fun and people really enjoy them. But ultimately, if like Duke goes and wins the tournament, then who cares about this stat, right? I mean, it means nothing really, but it is of interest, and it is something you kind of side-eye a little bit because that is supposed to be their bread and butter. And for not a single game to be between top 25 opponents, man, that's pretty unbelievable. So, yeah, we'll see if that changes for the better for them come tournament time. But definitely not the most ideal, stretch for the ACC in terms of basketball being down, and then on the football side, obviously doors rattling a little bit.
All right, we have our guests today include Matt Brown around the corner from Extra Points. Also today, Chris Lovell. He covers Texas Tech, an analyst for the men's basketball broadcast, and also sideline for football. And we'll get to that at 4 o'clock today. Terrell Bernard, Buffalo Bills, played at Baylor from LaPorte High School, has a new contract. He will join us today at 4:25. What a day it was in the NFL. We'll touch on that in between a few things. Craig will, of course, have a lot of that to wrap up and summarize tomorrow with Off the Radar. And Kendall Paul, what a story from the young man out of Commerce. He's from Bishop Dunn High School. Went to Texas A&M. With the East Texas A&M, which is in Commerce. Used to be East Texas State. One of their great alums was Wade Wilson, the former 18 or 19-year quarterback in the pros, and then eventually was an assistant coach. But we'll have Kendall Paul, who had a pro day and ran a 4.27. Talked to his agent, Craig LeBlanc. That's going to be today at a little bit after 5:15, and his story, which he's come out of nowhere. And now people in the NFL go, wow, because it is on tape. And he's now become like one of those diamonds in the rough and what the story might be with him. When we come back, it's Matt Brown, Extra Points. This is 365 Sports.
Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, drive home a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab or Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, both with massive $15,000 off MSRP. Looking for unbeatable value? Drive home a Ram 1500 Tradesman Quad Cab starting at just $35,995, or upgrade to a Tradesman Crew Cab for only $37,995. These deals won't last long. Hurry to Allen Samuels today.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
We're back, 365 Sports, as we continue this 3 o'clock hour, working on that. Let me text Matt Brown, the one, as he's supposed to join us here in a moment. Extra points with us on 365 Sports. Hope you've had a really good weekend, and we have what appears to be a pretty nice week of spring weather, at least where we are. But some of you are overseas. Some of you are in Mexico. Some of you, of course, in different parts of the country. But it is gorgeous here today in the Central Texas area. Let me see here. Andrew, you don't have him? Yeah, I'm resending him the link. Okay, all right. Craig, let me ask you this. Texas Tech started spring drills. Some schools will start to do that throughout the next several weeks. We'll have the ACC schedules that we'll go over the next 3.5 weeks because there's 17 teams, including Cal later today in the show. Your overall thoughts. Let's go to the tournament basketball. What is more fun to you? Is it the March Madness, the big boy tournament, or is it sometimes teams that have no chance of making it who are the ones that win the smaller tournaments that otherwise had no chance to be in the tournament?
I think you're probably asking the wrong guy, maybe the right guy, because I'm not like a hardcore college basketball fan. So for me, I just enjoy the tournament in general. I don't go in there like, go Blue Bloods. Yeah. I don't go in there saying, let's go Davids. I just watch it and enjoy the upsets. But I don't have I guess a particular preference. I just enjoy the whole event. The more upsets, the better. But I love it all. I love all the pageantry that comes with it and just the whole feeling that it brings to the sports world whenever it kicks off.
I love the from the beginning of the conference tournaments to schools like, for example, Southern Illinois, the Salukis that are in the tournament because they won their conference tournament and all that goes with it starting last week and now into the rest of the weekend. And Selection Sunday coming up this weekend. We're now joined by Matt Brown, Extra Points. He joins us on 365 Sports, and there you are with all the banners and so much more right there in front of you. So your thoughts about the latest when it comes to the NIL, house settlement. Transfer portal seems to be kind of contained for now. At least it appears that way. Matt, what right now is your biggest focus when it comes to all the moving parts in college athletics?
I think for me, one of the major areas that I've been focused on is what happens legislatively. And I understand, we had a House Commerce subcommittee hearing last week. There'll be a Judiciary Committee hearing in the House, I want to say tomorrow. But the folks that I've talked to on Capitol Hill, people that are legislative assistants or work in for subcommittees and staff and for members of Congress, what they've all been telling me is that the real juice here is going to come from the Senate. And Senator Ted Cruz, who leads the Commerce Committee, is expected to share some proposed legislation in the next couple of weeks. That might be before the Final Four. It might be kind of tied to around that area. And that's really the signaling bill that's going to shape whether Republicans in the House and the Senate can cobble together enough votes to give the NCAA a modicum of what they want. And what they want is clarification that athletes cannot be considered employees, regardless of what future courts might say, and to have at least a limited antitrust exemption that would allow the NCAA to enforce some of the NIL-related rules that keep getting smashed in court right now for being unfair restraints of trade. None of this was possible or was going to happen under a divided Congress. But Republicans control everything right now. And there's some optimism in the Republican side that they can get enough Democrats to get to 60. And if they can't, there are ways around that to make this becoming a bill. So that's the biggest thing that I'm watching, because whatever else happens with the NCAA or other court system has the potential to be rendered moot if the House, Senate, and the White House can get on the same page.
So, Matt, you had a newsletter last week talking about how it's kind of time to start maybe paying attention to some of these things a bit more. Does it feel like there's actually like strides being made? It's not just spinning wheels of here's another meeting and here's another government thing. Like, are we actually getting somewhere, do you feel like, at this point?
You know, it's interesting because if you just watch the hearings, which is not something I recommend anybody do unless you are being paid to watch the hearings like I am. I will take that arrow for you guys, right?
Thank you.
If you watch them, they all look the same. Even the one that was last week, run by the Republican-held House, looked and sounded pretty similar to the ones when the Democrats held the Senate and we had divided government. That what people who actually work on this stuff tell me is, look, there's some things you're going to see that are just for TV. We have a bunch of new House members in a lot of these committees, and they don't pay attention to college sports. They're going to ask dumb questions. But the real juice is happening behind the scenes within these committees, where you have staffers that have been around for a little bit longer. And because we have unified control of government from one party, and not to be partisan, but I'll say like a unified control by a party that's been pretty aggressive and wanting to get things done quickly, regardless of precedent or institutional niceties. Yeah, there is some meaningful momentum. It can always fall apart because trying to follow the federal government right now is a real challenge, given how unpredictable everything is. There could be another crisis in 2 weeks, and suddenly that's more important than anything that's happening in college athletics. But there is a far greater chance of an actual bill getting out of subcommittees and reaching a floor vote now than there was at any time over the last 3 years.
Matt, what would you say of those who are in these hearings or these meetings? How many of the congressmen understand what the hell they're talking about?
Very few. We got to be honest, right? There's not a huge cross-section between the kinds of people that win re-election multiple times in the House or Senate, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and the number of people that have pounded multiple beers at a tailgate. DC's not really a college sports town. There aren't a whole lot of college sports single-issue voters. Half these guys went to Yale and Princeton, and this wasn't a part of their growing up. So it isn't something that captures the imagination of the majority of politicians. There are exceptions. Senator Cruz is a legitimate sports fan. Congresswoman Trahan from Massachusetts, who's been a mainstay at these hearings, played collegiate volleyball at Georgetown and has been very animated in following the nuts and bolts of these issues. So there's been a couple of lawmakers on both sides that I think have acquired some of this knowledge, but this is not something that I would say your median member of Congress was elected to look into or really personally cares about very much.
Matt, what did you think of the ACC news last week, them coming to an agreement, settlement? I mean, I think the settlement part, people thought that was most likely just there was no timetable, really. We didn't know when or what or where, but now we do. Now we have a much clearer picture, although there's still some unanswered questions in the years to come. But what did you make of all that came out of that last week?
Part of me, read all of that and thought, what a waste of time and human capital and resources over these last 3 years to be tied up in litigation in 3 different states, only to reach a solution that was pretty similar to what Florida State had proposed initially, moving in a direction that gives unequal revenue for teams that are on television more, is certainly a slap in the face to the Wake Forests and Boston colleges of the world. But it's better to lose a little bit of money now than be Oregon State or Washington State and be removed from a league entirely because all the big institutions left. I understand why there's a lot of folks that look at that settlement and decide, all right, well, this is fine for a few years, and then in 2030, Florida State and Clemson and who else will leave to the SEC or Big Ten, and that'll be that for the ACC. Maybe that happens. But there's so much else that's uncertain and flying around right now. I don't even know if the Big Ten or SEC exists in 2030. Maybe we have a Super League by then. Maybe we don't have a Big 12 at that point. Maybe Canada counter invades us and we're all playing in a league with McGill. I know what I'm having for lunch tomorrow. I know what I'm writing in a couple of days. I feel reasonably certain about how this industry works in like 2 weeks. In 5 years, I think there's almost nothing that I would take for granted and say I'm very confident that this will still happen. So I have no idea what this league looks like or how we're consuming sports in 5 years.
There were some reactions to the settlement that actually Florida State and Clemson got more than even they asked for from the settlement itself. Did you dig that deep into it, or really did anyone win other than Florida State and Clemson, and did they win too?
Oh, I mean, a lot of attorneys made a lot of money through all of this, through motions and counter motions in North Carolina and Florida, and I think this was definitely good news for some elite law firms in those 3 states. I think Florida State and Clemson probably won more. If anything, I think the biggest winner is a school like North Carolina that agreed with a lot of the legal arguments being pushed by Florida State and Clemson, is arguably a more attractive realignment piece than Florida State or Clemson, and didn't have to file any of those lawsuits. They didn't nuke any political capital they had with the rest of their ACC peers. They just kind of got to shut up and let Florida State take all the slings and arrows for everything. I think Miami's kind of in a similar boat where both of those schools are going to have an easier time finding another major conference home than FSU or Clemson. And in the short term, the angry schools are going to get more money, even if they're not very good at football, which is what they wanted. Whether this will be able to pry them out of their conference agreement in 4 or 5 years, I really don't know, which I know makes for terrible sports radio.
Are you somebody who believes in revenue sharing? I mean, as far as like it spreading, I mean, we've seen it before. That's the thing is like, hey, is this going to go everywhere? It's like, well, we had seen it. We've seen it in the Big 12. We've seen it elsewhere. And some could say you're seeing it right now with schools coming in with lesser shares, at least initially in conferences. So is this just something being made out of nothing, or is this something that you think becomes more pervasive throughout college sports moving forward as the Ohio States feel, as many people use the example of like, we don't need to make the same amount of money as Rutgers on the surface?
It's a really good question. And you're right. This is not novel, right? The primary example, I think, over the last couple of years was the Big 12 with Texas and with Tier 3 revenue rights. And one school gets the Longhorn Network, and other schools are, throwing their stuff on pay-per-view or sub-licensing it to local NBC affiliates, and there's a huge revenue gap. We saw it with the Mountain West, where Boise State was able to leverage superior revenue sharing through their dalliance with the American Athletic Conference, and that led to lawsuits, and eventually that league fell apart. We saw it with the WCC, with Gonzaga being able to keep more money, but they earned from their NCAA tournament shares, and well, they're not in the WCC anymore. So there's a lot of examples of somewhat similar situations, and they rarely line up with long-term stability, which is part of the reason why schools leagues that can afford to do it try to do everything completely uniform. I wonder whether that remains the case in the Big Ten or the SEC, and I think it's harder to do this in the SEC because I think that's a more top-heavy league, right? With the Big Ten, you can pretty conclusively point to Ohio State and Michigan as driving more brand value than anybody else. And Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Penn State being a pretty significant separation from the rest of the league. In the SEC, I don't really think that's the case, where you can really have, I think, 7 or 8 schools that could very credibly say, no, we are a heavyweight. We are ones that are driving the most value. We're the ones that bring in $200 million plus athletic department. And I don't know if you could take enough money from Vanderbilt, Mississippi State to make the math work for everybody. It might just be easier to kick out Mississippi State. I have not heard anything directly from an AD or a president that makes me think that anybody in either of those 2 leagues is pushing for this, but they'll certainly be watching what happens with the ACC over the next couple of years. And I wouldn't be shocked if somebody at Ohio State, Michigan floated that idea in 2028.
Matt, I was kind of decompressing and out of pocket for a couple of days, but Friday, the story about the American Athletic Conference came down 3 years, minimum $10 million. And I just kind of saw that. And initially I was like, is that $10 million a year? And then I read it. Then I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
And I had the reaction to you without really digging in or getting information in front of me. That did seem to be a smaller number than I would have expected. You too?
Yeah, that was exactly it, right? So for those that are unfamiliar, the American athletic leaders all voted on a minimum threshold for revenue sharing. They're saying you got to spend at least $10 million over a 3-year period, not $10 million a year, but also if you are adding new scholarships to your athletic program, which nearly everybody is, you can count some of that money towards the $10 million. And if you're increasing what you're paying out for Alston awards or cash for educational related benefits, you can count some of that money too. So it's really $5 million over 3 years in explicit revenue sharing. Now, I know for a fact there are schools in the American Athletic that plan to spend more than that, potentially significantly more than that. This is something that leadership at Memphis in particular has signaled we are going to be very aggressive in this world. Tulane plans to be aggressive in this world. But the AAC now is different than the AAC than it was 5 years ago. And there are some athletic departments in there that recently joined that league that are still on partial shares that have very little money to share. And I think that's actually a useful framework to think about what revenue sharing looks like outside of the A4 and maybe the Big East. Just about everybody in the country is saying they're opting in. There's a couple of notable examples otherwise with North Dakota State, North Dakota. You're going to see some schools in the OVC and the Southland and the SoCon say they're not going to opt in. But by and large, just about everybody is. But most people don't have actual revenue to share. You can't share $20 million with athletes if you don't make $20 million. And a lot of these places don't. So you're going to see that we're opting in, and they're going to give some scholarships, and they're going to do some cost of attendance and get around some taxes, but they're really only going to share $2 or $3 million, which is still better than no dollars. But if you're a fan of a Stephen F. Austin or a Sam Houston State, and you're hoping that your house settlement money is going to change where the caliber of athlete you're recruiting, I am deeply, deeply skeptical.
Matt, where does March Madness in this time of year rank amongst your favorite times of or favorite things in college athletics?
I love the first weekend of the tournament, and I'm with you guys. I'm not a college basketball diehard. I did not grow up around a college basketball culture. I grew up in a place where football was a civic religion, and basketball was something you did for 6 weeks out of the year, and certainly not from the old alma mater. But what I love about this event is that it's so much more egalitarian than almost anything else that we do in college athletics, where a school with 4,000 students and a team of future dentists can potentially humiliate a team with 3 NBA draft picks on it. That does not happen in college football. It happens occasionally in college baseball, but that's it's such a niche audience, and a lot of it happens later in the summer when people aren't as engaged. It doesn't click the same way. But we have the whole country is involved, big school, small school, and it's on during the day. As a country, we are collectively forgetting white-collar work. Middle schoolers across the country are wheeling out televisions and skipping the 1 to 3 o'clock part of their day and so to watch some 9 seed that we've all never heard of. I think that's great. I love that little bit of monoculture that we don't necessarily have in the rest of college sports.
Really, ever since the World Series decided not to play afternoon games, and that's been a while now. That used to always be so cool. There aren't many of these events now that are played during the day, during the week. And you're right, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and I think the exceptions are often international events. I watch the World Cup during my workday. The Olympics are often during the workday. But most other major American sporting events are in the evening. They're in prime time, and that's fine too. But I don't know about you guys. This was a big part of me in middle school and high school, and I even did this myself when I was a teacher. Is I'd wheel the TV out there and this is your 2 days out of the year. We're going to blow off social studies, and we're going to watch Stephen F. Austin play against Kansas. And even though we're in Louisiana or Ohio, nobody knows anybody here. I think that's fun, and you remember those events. That's a different kind of coworker bonding, student-teacher bonding. I think that's worth celebrating.
And you rolled them out. Those TVs were like 1,000-pound TVs that were on top of that metal 3-story roller. Remember that?
No, yeah. Nobody. I'm sure we have flat screen TVs in schools now, but I think all of it, for March Madness, I think everybody used one where the TV's 3 feet thick. It's the weight of a Sherman tank. It hasn't left that little that 3-pronged setup since the 70s, and somehow it still gets CBS. Great, that's all you need.
Well, yeah, you just would click like 3 channels is all you needed in the day. I saw your note today in the newsletter about the March 21st in Columbus, Ohio, with Armin Katayan and John Talty wrote the book about the price, what it takes to win in college football's era of chaos. You're going to be on that panel. We had John on last week. This is intriguing to me because I don't know if anyone really knows what it's going to take to win, other than just keep throwing money at something. Correct?
It's a good point, and I think it's a conversation that's worth having, within the entire university community. Because on one point, it is throwing money at stuff, but it's also changing the relationship that the university has with the athletic department and maybe with the community itself, because this is a much more explicitly professionalized model than it's ever been, right? Like before I'm hopping on this segment here with you guys. I'm going through my open records library with all these contracts for general managers and seeing how that looks like, and that it's the job description and the compensation and how that world works is way more similar to an NBA or an NFL front office job than anything that's existed in college before. We're asking athletes to travel more, to take different classes more, to shoulder more of a physical burden than ever before. And these aren't necessarily always bad things, but they are things I think you have to be explicit about. And it is going to get more and more expensive because the costs for labor are going to shoot up faster than the costs for maybe some of the other infrastructure in this sport to go down. I'm excited for this panel, and it's not just because it's a chance for me to go home. I grew up in Columbus. I went to Ohio State. But I think it's a fun conversation with academics, with reporters, and then also personnel with Ohio State's athletic department, right? Mark Pantoni is going to be on this thing too. He's the general manager. He was Urban and Day's right-hand man for a long time and understands the blood and guts of big-time college football at a level that even people like John and I don't know. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I think these are conversations that everybody within a university should not shy away from, but have and try to be transparent about.
What would your chip be if you had an NIL deal with a chip type brand or a specific chip?
It's a good question. I wanted to do something vaguely Latin American to celebrate my heritage. I think it'd be a plantain chip, right? Which this company's also doing. But am I going to grab the plantain chips if I'm at the grocery store and if I'm making myself a sandwich in my kitchen? Don't tell my cousins, but probably not. I gotta admit, I wrote about this here today. I'd actually be fascinated to kind of hear about what this might look like in your market, because this company that's setting up athletes to endorse chips or snacks or like frozen pizzas, it's mostly in Syracuse and Columbus and in St. Louis and a lot of these northern areas here. In Texas, would the move be to try to get people to make their own barbecue sauce? Is it you can't do beer or any alcohol, unfortunately. And I know that regional fast food is a war zone and nobody really wants to get involved with that. Is that where a young man at Baylor or Houston should try to get his face in a grocery store?
Yeah, that's a great question. I may nibble around and see if in fact that works out. What would they do? Barbecue sauce, of course, would make sense. Something like that. Kolaches are popular, especially up and down I-35 with West Texas right above us with all their famous type kolaches that they make for those who travel. But that was an interesting newsletter, by the way. Matt Brown, it's worth it. Every cent of what you do. Matt Brown, Extra Points. We appreciate it, buddy. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Be well, friend.
Thank you. And I mean it. It's great. Here's how athletes are getting their own NIL food deals. And he was talking mainly about a couple of different schools, but they're having like chip deals. For example, Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden, Red Hot Riplets Honey Barbecue Ranch Chips. That's a mouthful. Carnell Tate, the wide receiver, Ohio State, Grippo's Hot Honey Barbecue Chips. Kyle McCord at Syracuse, the quarterback, barbecued cheddar chips. So from frozen pizzas, as he mentioned, to snack bags to ice cream are the ones that are right now being NIL, making some money off of some of those snacks at those various schools based on what is a business helping them out at this particular time.
Yeah, I don't know how many of these things we actually ever even see. Like maybe if you're more in the geographic footprint with some of those snack deals. Like I know Livy Dunn, we see her on her like clothing commercials, and so that's out there and that's in your face. I think we've seen, Angel Reese prior to her leaving. I saw her on more like national stuff before turning pro. So those are two that I feel like their scope or their reach was pretty far and wide, but some of those, like, you just see it on Twitter. And then, hey, that's where a lot of the audience is, or it's on Instagram. It gets more views on TikTok than it does, like, on ABC in the middle of anything but the Super Bowl probably. Right. So, I mean, that's probably why I don't spend a ton of time on Instagram. Well, actually, I spend none on that or TikTok, so I probably miss a lot of that. So just in like what I consider mainstream as like an older guy, not a lot of that crosses through, but through social media, a lot of it does. And through social media, you learn about a lot of the NI deals you might not otherwise know about, and that's cool to be in the chip game and whatever else you've got at your disposal. That'd be really cool to have your name on a bag of chips. I think they had like Rap Snacks was it's kind of what I think of in terms of having like rappers have their own like pickle and whatever chips, and this rapper had cheddar and honey chips, and so it sounds very much like that in the same vein, and that's cool, and that's something to definitely catch your eye on the shelves.
Alan, kettle chips, jalapenos, or salt and vinegar.
Love kettle chips. Love a good kettle chip. That's my absolute favorite.
My favorite type of potato chip was the one that they have out. And it was the kettle chip. It was original, and then there was one that was, golly, I forgot the actual brand, and that's no longer on the shelves. I don't know why. It was the one I enjoyed. It wasn't too heavy. It was now they still have the original kettle chip, but they had a different one, and I forgot the name of it. But I enjoyed those too much.
Lay's has kettle chips too.
No, but this was no, it wasn't Lay's, but I know what you're talking about. So I try to. When I see kettle chips, I'll say I'll give that brand a try. Nothing was like what I got with what I enjoyed the most. By the way, PettyClinicLowT.com, Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and Dr. Kent Petty and his staff want to help you out. Contact them, PettyClinicLowT.com. They will set you up with an appointment to get your blood work. He will get the results, get them back, and if your testosterone level is too low, Dr. Kent Petty can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports in this 4 o'clock hour now. We're joined by Chris Lovell. He's a men's basketball analyst, football sideline analyst, and a part of Red Raider Sports.com. He joins us on 365 Sports, Craig Smoak and David Smoak. All right, what a year. What a great run for Grant McCaslin and company. JT Toppin honored well, Chris, among others. Are they set for what you think can be a deep run if they just can be who they are?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's really good teams that don't even make it out of the first weekend of the tournament, but they've played a really good brand all year. I think there's what I have witnessed kind of flourish, because I don't know, Grant may have. I don't know if I broadcast a lot of these games on radio and TV back in November and December, and I don't know if I was sitting here looking at the second best team in the Big 12 Conference at that time, but they've just gotten better and better, and they have a variety of ways they can beat you. And I think that's and they're not the biggest team, but they are extremely skilled. And so I would say this, though, they're going to be a tough out. They don't solely rely on this player. As good as JT was, they don't. I mean, the biggest win they had all year was at Houston, and he played all of 3.5 minutes. And they still were able to figure it out. I don't know how, but they figured it out. So what Grant's, the key thing is can they stay healthy? Mm-hmm. And I think that's why this week is a bit tricky for a variety of people across the country. But it's been a really fun team to watch improve, and I think they could cause some problems. Absolutely.
Chris, when it comes to JT Toppin, here's a guy who was going to be a part of the NBA draft there for a second last year, decides to withdraw, and then the rest is history. Just what's it been like to cover that young man over the past few months, and just kind of what can you tell us about him and just this team? You mentioned it's fun watching this team, but just what's this journey been like with this particular group of Red Raiders?
Yeah, Craig, I think JT's an interesting guy because he's pretty quiet. He doesn't say a whole lot. I think that that's the thing with this portal era is you don't get to know these guys, right. And then they're here and then they're gone, like JT probably will be. But he's kind of quiet and he doesn't say a whole lot. So I think that initially people are like, is he just mad? Is he not having any fun? No, he's just quiet. I mean, he's a 19-year-old kid. Now he'll smile, but he's not the most outspoken kid at all. But he's got a beautiful left hand and like that hook shot, and he's just so efficient. What's fascinating to me about him winning this award is that he only made, I think, like 14 threes all season. I mean, he's made a few here and there, but it's like a total of like 14, I think, all season. And I counted them up just because I wanted to make sure I was right, but I think there's like 14 or 15 guys that attempted more free throws in the league than he did. So he didn't average all these points a game by shooting the three and majoring in it and then just getting to the free throw line and making, 6 to 8 to 9 free throws every night out. This was the old fashioned kind of back to the basket post player. And I don't think we see that much. And he had to deal with a lot of double teams and all these things, and incorporated, going over his left shoulder and using his right hand and whatnot. But it was just a lot of fun to kind of watch him be consistent, because the stat was what Michael Beasley, Kevin Durant, and Blake Griffin is the company he's in as far as 30-point games and 10+ rebounds a game. That's kind of the category that you're in, and that he's in the middle of those three guys as far as those kinds of stats in this league. But watching this team flourish, because there's not a lot of drama at all. I think they all enjoy playing with each other. There's no, hey, look at me. They don't care who gets the credit. It's been pretty fun. And JT will get picked in the draft, but he's not, I don't know if he's a lottery pick or anything. So you're just kind of, I think you got slept on a little bit, and you're the smaller group collectively. And so I think that a lot of people kind of, again, they looked at Iowa State, or they looked at Cincinnati, or they looked at whoever it was, Kansas. And again, you just kind of, the 8-2 road record though is what's nuts. That's what is the single most impressive thing this group did, is just win consistently away from home. You go win at Houston, you go win in Lawrence, and then all the tricky road trips that we had in between on these sleepy Tuesday nights, and you just didn't, rare was it that you didn't have it or show up. So it's been an impressive. And again, how does it end? I don't know, but there's hopefully more chapters to be written in this book.
I have always used this with Grant McCaslin, and of course we got to know him when he was on Scott's staff, and a lot of coaches who are now head coaches. Scratch and claw, tough. I mean, all the thing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Just play their asses off. Like every single possession, every second. They're going to lose a game occasionally. They didn't lose many this year, but how would you describe them?
Yeah, well, and it's funny because Grant, he doesn't give an inch. He just he provides the juice. He demands that his staff provides the juice. They are very well prepared. But it's not the little engine that could. It's that you have really good players here, and you have some guys that'll play at some level professionally. Okay, but I think the best compliment you can give Grant is that in back-to-back years, he has squeezed everything he could out of the group that he's got. And I think that's the best compliment you can give a head coach. And I love watching him coach. He's, again, people see this nice, guy that can read any room that he's in, and then you put him out there on the hardwood, man, and he's a bit of a maniac. And I love it because he's able to channel it and compartmentalize in that way. But yeah, they're just it's just been a fun and consistently good. That's the thing. I mean, I think Grant is over the 2 years. I think this is right. I think he's like 26-12 in the Big 12 conference in the 2 years as head coach here in league games. That's impressive. And they were fourth last year. They were second this year. I don't know where it goes, but like I said, I mean, it's been a lot of fun watching him do his thing and kind of live out his dream of sorts.
I know this is kind of random, Chris, but just with the season, I guess now getting into the postseason, you've made all of your Big 12 trips. And so with the new schools coming in, I was just curious, did you have any standout moments from new places that you've seen? And even the ones that were, joining last year, all this newness, just your thoughts about somebody who's been around all these different gyms, seen all these different teams in action, and just kind of what stood out to you this year?
Yeah, Craig, that's a great question because it is. We've been to some new places and far off places. I would say I could see why some really fought it, and then some were like, "This is a no-brainer." But after been up there now for football and basketball, BYU is going to be a problem, and I can see why. I can see why like Utah was like, "Don't let them in." You don't. Allow them to be on the level playing field because as we're seeing, they're kind of flourishing here, and it's causing a lot of problem for the youth specifically. But that was an impressive. They put 18,000 in the Marriott Center that night when the Red Raiders were there in early January, and You got that crazy mascot doing all kinds of things with fire and swords and all kinds of things. But that's an impressive. If people want to make a road trip though anywhere, I don't know if like the football part would be different than the basketball part these days. But like I just came back from Tempe. Unbelievable campus. I mean, unbelievable. I could see why they struggle to attract fans going to their games because the weather there should be illegal. And everybody's pretty. And so, it's just, yeah, I mean, it was a great, they are a total Pac-12 school though. When we were there the other night, they're honoring the swimming and diving teams for winning whatever championship that they won. And I'm thinking like, that's so far off the grid from Texas Tech doesn't have this. But anyways, Cincinnati was my first trip up there. Don't eat the chili, the Skyline stuff. They put cinnamon in it. It's bizarre. It's terrible. I felt like I had to do it because I was up there when in Rome kind of thing. But anyway, so yeah, I've seen all these places. And I'll tell you this, though, after seeing everything, I can understand why some of these folks, if there is another shift in another, say, 3 or 4 years, if I was Cincinnati and I was UCF and not BYU, but if I was one of these newer additions, I'd be worried because if it comes down to fan support and facilities and whatever else, there's some folks that are seriously behind. Like what's in Waco, what's in Lubbock. I mean, some of these folks have got a long way to go to bring it up a notch as far as like the buildings they're playing in or the fields they're playing on and all that stuff. And so that's been fairly eye-opening, is you just don't realize how good you have it until you see some of these other folks. And then you get, okay, well, this is why nobody had added them previously. So anyway, long answer there, but that's a great question.
But you're right. Some schools' facility, because it was the facility arms race, and a lot of people got ahead of it or had already spent the money to get it built. We saw the unveiling of what Texas Tech has with the Womble Center and other places, and there are some that feel like they're kind of behind on that. Real quick note: football spring drill starting today. We had Joey on. I mentioned that to you a couple weeks ago. A lot of players are hurt. Nothing new or surprising. Your thoughts with Baron Morton out? What are a couple of the storylines in your opinion for Texas Tech?
Yeah, Smoke, I think that most of those guys were hurt in the middle of the year or whatever, and so it's just going to, as precaution, there's several guys out in the spring. But Barron is kind of that's one of the main storylines. That's a fair question. And, he had shoulder surgery in early December. I think this will be good for Will Hammond, who was a stud freshman last year and a highly recruited kid. He's going to get all the reps in the spring. But what does Barron look like on the other side of this? How quickly is he cleared? Does he have full range of motion? These are all fair questions to ask and wonder aloud about for sure. But I'm in Lubbock this year, spring, this may be the most anticipated because they're on the field right now as I talk to you guys for the first one. But it may be one of the most highly anticipated springs that you've had around here because there's so many new and very important pieces added to this deal. You've added a ton of big people. I mean, anytime you want to talk to Joey and everything, he's going to tell you it's all about who's got the best and most big people. And they didn't have enough of them last year. Admittedly, they were good at a lot of spots, but in the trenches, they just weren't up to par and on either side of the ball. And they knew it. And it kept them out of Arlington. Now, they were fortunate enough to beat the two teams that did play in that game in Arlington, but couldn't figure out otherwise. But consistently, they just weren't. And then you go add what they feel like are 4 starting caliber corners, and then you add Mo Horn to it. So they've got 5 guys that they feel like. And so that's where it's at. It's offensive line, it's defensive line, and kind of secondary. If you don't want to talk quarterback, is kind of what I would be most interested in looking at. And they certainly look the part. There's a measurables conversation that we can have, whereas Texas Tech doesn't look like the small, man, do y'all got a weight room, kind of roster anymore. No, they definitely look the part, and there's some depth there. But again, that doesn't guarantee you anything. You've got to go do it now.
The best note of the day is the Arizona State campus, which my father got his master's in the 60s after being a Naval Academy graduate. Everybody's pretty.
So we're going to title this video.
Truth.
No, Paul Catalina, who's not with us today, is an FSU grad, and I think Arizona State is the FSU of the mountain or West Coast. With the campus, the scenery, everybody's pretty.
I tell no lies here. I tell no lies. Yes. So.
Unbelievable. I love it. You were right. I love the way you kind of set that up. Chris, thank you very much for your time, buddy. Have a great rest of the day.
Hey, thank you so much,
You
guys.
too.
I appreciate you. Y'all be good.
Chris Level, men's basketball analyst, sideline analyst for football, and also RedRaidersports.com. He just got back from Tempe. They had a baseball series out there. They are struggling right now when it comes to baseball up in Lubbock. And, of course, that remains once the conference down the road. A lot of teams that were ranked high, just like in men's basketball, some teams that fell out who were ranked in the top 10. There's some baseball teams that are having some tough go right now, including Tech. A&M's another one after being ranked number 1 in the country.
Yeah, it's still a little early baseball-wise, though, to panic or anything like that. I'm sure Tech will be just fine in the long run. It's one of the better programs, especially post-Texas's departure. I think that just further solidifies them as one of the better programs. But, we'll see what newcomers and just everybody has to say. It's still a league that's very much figuring itself out, and this is the first go-around in baseball. And that's partly why I asked him about basketball is because we've been through the whole cycle now and just wanted to get his thoughts, and I think he had some interesting insight there. A couple of different really interesting comments actually based off that question. So, same thing stands for baseball as it did for basketball and football and everything else of just new places, new faces, kind of figure it out, and then every team's different every year. So, baseball's underway and excited to see kind of what that turns into here over these next couple of months.
North Star Funding Partners is our sponsor of any of the Texas Tech, by the way, segments, including that one we had with Chris Level. And also the one we had a week or two ago with Joey McGuire and anything in the future. We appreciate them for their business. The new IRA, by the way, ask them about that. Contact them, NorthstarFundingPartners.com. Coming up next, Terrell Bernard, Buffalo Bills, got a new contract with the LaPorte High School, played at Baylor. He's next. This is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
We continue 365 Sports, and we'll take you up until about 6 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock Central. We appreciate those of you in the chat room. We appreciate, of course, our great sponsors, too, and our guest. We've had Matt Brown, we've had Chris Level, and now joined by Buffalo Bills, former Baylor linebacker Terrell Bernard joins us on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak and David Smoak with you on the show today. Hey, man, it's been a while. I got to tell you, you and what you guys did and how you left the program what it was like when you arrived. So proud of you in many, many ways. And you just got yourself your first deal since being drafted. Can you kind of go over that? And thanks again for your time today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, man, I had a great time at Baylor. I was there for 5 seasons, and, just like you talked about, just the things that we went through, from when I first got there in 2017 to, ending as Big 12 champions and, winning the Sugar Bowl, every emotion that you can imagine. And then, I'm still a proud Baylor Bear. I watch the games every Saturday, do everything I can to keep up with the team. And yeah, it's been fun, man. Buffalo's a lot different than Waco, but it's been great. It's a great team, great organization. And, I'm blessed to be able to be in, a great spot.
Terrell, I'm not sure, what the expectations you had for yourself were, but, man, you hit the ground running in Buffalo. I mean, you were calling plays for the defense, I think, pretty quickly in your career, and I know there's been a couple hiccups with injuries and whatnot, but, man, it's been so cool to see you thrive and become a star, and you were rewarded over the weekend with this new deal. Just what did that mean to you, the commitment going both ways, and just to kind of know where your feet are going to be moving forward with this organization? What does that mean to you and your family?
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. You never really know, in this business how things will shake out and how it'll turn. But, to have the opportunity to sign a new contract and to have a little bit of security here in Buffalo, I can't say anything other than that I'm blessed to be in this position and have the opportunity. It's something that I've dreamed about my whole life to be in this position, and to have the chance to just play on a good team with good fans and with great teammates. So it's a blessing for sure.
Terrell, you guys have been knocking on that door. I mean, there was an old time back in the days when Earl Campbell, the great Texas running back, would play with the Oilers. They couldn't beat Pittsburgh, and Bum Phillips one time just said, "We're going to keep knocking on the door. We're going to kick it in." Do you feel like you have beaten the Chiefs and Mahomes, but do you feel like you just got to keep slamming your head against that wall and it's going to happen?
Yeah, that's what it is, man. They've built a really good team over the last few years, and unfortunately we haven't been able to beat them in the playoffs, and that's kind of what it's been so far. But kind of like you said, you got to keep going, and we'll build up a new team this year and give it another shot. But I think for us, we're focused internally on what we got to do to take that next step and to really become a championship level team. And like you said, we've been knocking on the door for some years now. So it's about looking inside and seeing things that we can improve on to get over that hump.
How were you able to so quickly earn the trust of your teammates a couple of years ago into becoming a leader as quickly as you did? I found it just fascinating from the outside looking in when there's a bunch of veterans that could have been that guy, but you came in and you just kind of how'd you do it? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I think it just starts with being yourself. I didn't try to be anybody that I'm not. So coming in, doing my job, working as hard as I can, and really leading by example first. And, once you do that and other guys around you see, the effort, the energy, the work that you put in, I feel like naturally, people gravitate towards that. And, I think that's something that's been on my mind since I first got here was do the best that I can every day, work as hard as I can. And, eventually I'll be in the position that I want to be. And, guys will follow that. And, I think that's been, the biggest thing for me is that I have to look at myself and make sure I'm doing everything right. And then, the rest of the things will follow.
When you were at Baylor and the combination, there were a lot of really good players in that 21 team that won the Sugar Bowl, the Big 12 championship, of course, with Dave Aranda. But did you and Jalen Petrie just always know what the other person was going to do? Because it seemed like, for me, just watching the game, it seemed like it was always almost in synchronized swimming type mode that you guys played the game on the defensive side.
Yeah, man, we have a very special, connection and bond. That's my brother. We came in together. We're living together for 3 or 4 years. And, when you build a relationship with like that with somebody, I think, that bleeds into the football. And, we were best friends and brothers for a long time before, it really started to show on the field. So, we kind of both had our own paths to getting on the field and to playing and, trying to become, good players. And, I think it was really cool, just the journey, because I got to see him and he got to see me, start out and, ultimately finish out our careers there. And, just the process and the work that it took. He was a guy that I leaned on a ton throughout my career there. He pushed me to work harder than I ever thought I would. And, I hope I did the same thing for him. But yeah, it was a bond that was created over years and years and years of hard work and time and, just the day to day that, once we got out there on Saturdays, it was next, it was next level. And, we just had a special connection.
Terrell, did you get to see, have you been back recently at all? Wondering if you got to see the new football facility.
I haven't been back yet. I saw on social media some of the videos and stuff. I think I'm planning to get down there this spring though to see it in person.
Good deal.
And there's a section with the players and the current NFL players listed on the wall, but also some other ways to remind everyone of what you did and other awesome. Great players did as well.
Yeah, you definitely have some places in there that you'll see when you return. What was the Buffalo group chat like? I know you probably have spread, but, man, a lot of you guys signing, huh? I mean, Josh Allen and various others had to be just kind of a celebratory weekend, not only for yourself, but even team-wise as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was crazy. NFL free agency is wild. There's new things happening every single day. So you get on Twitter and check the phone, and you got a new teammate or you got one of the guys that you've been with for a while signing a big deal. So it's been awesome, man. I'm so proud of all the guys that have signed back and guys that are still in that process. It's life-changing, man. It's a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of time put into it. So, for people to get rewarded and, keep our band, our group together, it's been great to see.
Did you ever, even early on, if they allowed you to hit Josh Allen, did you ever have to run into him? And what's that like? And I can't imagine.
Yeah, no, that's a cardinal sin up here in Buffalo. No, I've never hit Josh. I think I wouldn't be a Bill much longer if I did. No, but I see a bunch of other guys trying to hit him, and it does not look very fun. So,
well, the run he made against Kansas City, it might have been during the regular season when you guys won, that whirling dervish, and he was kind of going in different directions. It's just, how big is he? Is he bigger than maybe people realize? He's a huge human being.
Yeah, for sure. He was, I remember when I first got here and I saw him just walk by him in the hallway and said, "What's up?" And I was like, man, he's a lot bigger than what I thought. You see it on paper, but until you stand next to the guy, I don't think you really understand. The dude's 6'5", about 250 pounds, and like you said, you see it every Sunday, how athletic and all the things that he can do. So it's honestly amazing to watch him every Sunday. When I'm on the sidelines watching the offense work, I truly feel like a fan. Seeing some of those guys out there. So it's been amazing.
We had Phil Snow on last week, and of course you know Phil, and he was there, and then you moved on, and we asked him about the combination of what you and Jalen did, and others on the defense too, and he was concerned about your size and being a part of the NFL. Was that something that he ever spoke with you about, and was that something that was brought up when people were looking at you playing in the NFL?
Yeah, that was brought up a ton. Coach Snow is awesome. You know, I actually just was on the phone with him the other day for about 30 minutes. You know, just catching up. But yeah, it was something that's been talked about a lot. You know, I think you know, before I got into the league, it was a topic that was kind of a knock on me, which, you know, is understandable. I'm a smaller linebacker, and you know, I think even you know, at the college level, I was a smaller linebacker, but you know, I feel like once you figure out your play style and how you have to maneuver and how, you know, you might have to move around some things, I think that's what, you know, was able to allow me to have some success. I think I figured out how to use my body and where my limitations were and what I needed to, you know, excel in other areas to kind of, you know, cover that up.
How long does it take after the season's over for your body to get back to feeling okay?
Yeah, man, it takes a while. You know, it's such a long season. You know, 17 regular season games, 3 preseason games, and then, you know, however many games you play in the playoffs. So, you know, most years you're playing 20 plus games. And, you know, I think, you know, after my rookie year and after my second year, I rushed back into training a little bit too fast, honestly. And, you know, now that I've gotten a little bit more experience and, you know, kind of understand what an NFL offseason looks like and, you know, what an NFL season looks like, I think I've given myself a little bit more grace and a little bit more time. So, you know, I try to take about 2 weeks off where I'm not lifting as much. I'm not sprinting. I'm not doing, you know, explosive movements and stuff to kind of, you know, reset my body and kind of get back to feeling like, you know, back to myself a little bit. And then after that, you know, you slowly pick back up and get ready for the next year.
You had that great year the last year you're there. Everything that went right for the team and the program under Dave Aranda after that COVID year. And then things kind of were a little bit tough. And you say you watch as much as you can, Baylor, during the times, whether it's off or during your season and what you have going on. They were able to turn the corner again. They won their last 6 and then lost in the bowl game. There were thoughts about Dave Aranda. You know that. It's part of the what have you done for me lately. Did you ever talk to him much, and can you explain what Dave Aranda meant to you?
Yeah, man, I talked to Coach Aranda a lot. You know, throughout the season, he'll call and check on me. You know, after the season, I talked to him, you know, for a while too. You know, he's one of my favorite people in this industry. You know, he came in and helped me out so much, just, you know, on and off the field. I think, you know, he really shifted my mindset and, you know, helped me become a better person, a better player, and, you know, honestly, a better man. And, you know, I have so much respect for him and how he operates and how he runs this program. You know, I think he is one of the best coaches, you know, in college football. He does things in a very unique way, but I think he does things to get the most out of his players. And, you know, like I said, on and off the field, he truly cares about the guys, you know, on the roster. And, you know, I'm always going to be a supporter of him, a supporter of Baylor. And, you know, I can't say enough good things about him.
Big moment for you, right? Married and you expecting a child, your first child with your wife. And what was that like as far as kind of juggling that and what is real life?
Yeah, man, it's been crazy. Yeah, it's happened so fast. You know, we got married during the season, and then, you know, shortly found out that we were going to be expecting our little girl. So yeah, that's you know, something that definitely puts things into perspective. You know, you do football for so long, and you know, it's your job now. So, you know, you can get caught up in it sometimes, and you know, to have that you know, come up and understand that there's so much more than just this game, and you know, I'm so much more than just a football player. So I think that's really you know, what has helped me, you know, shape my mind and kind of, you know, help me grow, you know, just as a man, opposed to just, you know, just being a football player.
Hey man, we appreciate you, Terrell. Thank you for coming on, and congratulations on what you've accomplished. I know there's much more to get to and much more to accomplish, but everything with your life seems to be going really, really well. You're always going to be one of our favorites that we watch play the game because you played it at such a high intensity and played it so fast. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for having me on.
Terrell Bernard, Buffalo Bills, signed a new contract, part of that right before free agency. A lot of free agency news today as it has begun. And then, of course, he was an All-American, that tandem with he and Jalen Petrie. Those two guys, literally, when I watched the game, not someone that's looking at too much of the X's and O's at times, just watching the game, those two were basically as tight in together as I've ever seen play on the defensive side of the ball, ever. Whatever one was doing, the other one was pretty much doing it at the same speed and also with very good results.
Yeah, very happy for Terrell. I mean, he and Petrie were a dynamic duo, no doubt about it, and a big part of Baylor winning the Big 12 championship that year and just reversing the trajectory of the program after Dave Aranda took over the COVID year and things were just kind of uncertain and a mess in the entire world, but also down inside those football program walls. I don't know anybody knew what to expect after COVID, and they came back with a fury and won the Big 12 and did so in emphatic fashion and won the Sugar Bowl and did so in emphatic fashion. And, then it's been kind of up and down since then, but that was the greatest Baylor football team. I think some would maybe argue if it was the best, but it was the greatest in terms of what it accomplished. It's not even a question. Others won the Big 12 title. They didn't turn around and win the Sugar Bowl. They fell short in accomplishing that. So that 2021 team will always have a very special place in the halls and on those walls of the facility and just in the record books and in the hearts of all Baylor fans back then. And yeah, he was one of those driving forces. I'm thrilled for him and his family that he's probably not going to have to worry about money, I would think, and can not worry about a lot of other things like, am I going to be traded soon, or am I going to be a free agent soon, or am I going to have to go move again, or whatever. He's secure in more ways than one now in Buffalo and there for the long term, and I think that's just awesome because whatever you expected out of Terrell Bernard as far as a pro player, I don't think anybody anticipated him becoming like the captain of their defense pretty much right away. He wears that C on the chest as their defensive captain, and I think that's pretty awesome. That's why I asked him about it. It's because dude, you came in, you were already the captain of the defense basically right away. It was pretty incredible to see that, and so yeah, to get rewarded for that is deserved, and I feel good for him. Just Terrell Bernard, the person and the player, I just feel really good for him, and very happy that he's seeing all his hard work pay off.
We will have our continuing series of looking at college football teams in their upcoming 2025 schedule. We blew through the Big 12, and it was gone before we knew it. They opened up with Boston College last week. As we look at the ACC a little bit later on today, we'll look at the Cal Bears and what they have coming up in 2025. That's going to take us over the next 3 weeks because there's, 17 teams in the ACC. Also today, we will update you on a couple of the other stories involving some college football. But there's one note. I wanted to get to this one. Where did it go? The Kendall Paul story, I told you about that. He's going to join us today at 5:25 from East Texas A&M. And one of those stories that I just can't wait to talk to him about what he has been through. But we'll do the Cal football story and schedule at around 5 o'clock today. Let's break here. Andrew Valade running the mothership. Garrett, Emery, and Paul out today. Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, and this is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Been a busy day today. Craig, of course, with Off the Radar on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's been a busy day today when it comes to the NFL. Some free agency news. Sam Darnold, who had a fantastic year with the Vikings, is headed to Seattle over just over $100 million contract. The Jets have a deal with Justin Fields. So there are a couple of the quarterbacks who land in certain spots, and Washington has picked up Laramie Tunsil, who's a very highly honored and one of the best offensive linemen in pro football from the Houston Texans.
Any one of those you want to talk about in particular, or are you just throwing them out there?
I didn't even Daniel, son-in-law, your brother-in-law, sent me a text about Laramie Tunsil. I did not know. That's actually a trade with Houston. So Houston does get something back. That's why I didn't know that he was out open for the market. But they will have 4 picks sent to the Texans, a 3rd and 7th rounder this year and a 2nd and 4th rounder in 2026. They'll also get a 4th rounder in return for this upcoming draft in April. But that's a lot of collateral. They have a lot of cap money available. Of course, Deebo Samuel's going to get some of that among some others, and now they'll get Laramie Tunsil, who's a very, very highly respected offensive tackle from the Texans.
Yeah, I like that you say highly respected, and then I'm going to turn around and say my biggest memory of him was the gas mask on draft night. Yep. But, no, he's a good player. I think Washington went into the offseason knowing and saying that they needed to improve the offensive line, especially the blind side of Jaden Daniels. And so that's mission accomplished right there with the pickup of Laramie Tunsil, at least on paper, which is basically what football is in its entirety right now, is all on-paper activities. But on paper, Washington going and making a couple big moves early in free agency with the Deebo Samuel trade and trying to add some more weapons to that offense, knowing that you've got a Terry McLaurin and some other talented receivers, but you could always use more. And obviously he's a Swiss Army knife guy, can do a few different things for you. But that was, a bit splashy, but this is definitely a big splash because the importance of, protecting Jaden Daniels and just making sure he can be the amazing player that we saw him be as the rookie of the year in the NFL on offense. And so, I think this is a move he's also happy about, much like Deebo Samuel. You give up some picks, but you got to give up something to get what you want, and he's definitely more of a sure thing than probably just about anybody you would have drafted with the second and fourth rounders that you're sending over to Houston in this deal. So, yeah, I want to read more about it, but Tunsil's still at a good spot as far as age. He's only, I think, 30 years old, so he's not to the point where you're worried about him being on the other side of his best days just yet. And this isn't a move for 10 years from now. It's a move for, like, want to win right now. So that helps you, I think, do this. And we'll see on Deebo Samuel as well how much he helps, because I've seen a lot of split opinions on, where Deebo still is in his career and this and that. Yeah. But, we'll let that all play itself out. But as a Commanders fan, I'm excited about what they've done so far. I'm also a little bit leery. I've seen that franchise and other franchises go sign names and doesn't amount to much because there's got to be more to it than just a name. But I think these are a couple of guys that have something to prove or are still in a good spot in their careers where they're not just names if you're a Commanders fan, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm always a little bit concerned about trading a lot of draft picks, but draft picks are people who have not yet, players who have not yet played at that level. Tunsil's won 3 of the last 5 years as a Pro Bowl player, and yeah, he will always be remembered for the draft night, the video that leaked with him in the gas mask.
Well, I mean, that's at least where my mind goes immediately, especially when you say whatever it was that you said right before that. But, I mean, they're also losing guys. They lost Jeremy Chin, safety, who had a nice rebound year with them. So he's off to go be with the Raiders now and join Pete Carroll and company. So that's a bit of a loss on the defensive side. That was a good pickup for them after, he was just wasting away there in Carolina. He was a big part of their defense a year ago, so I'm kind of bummed to see him go. They're going to have to draft in some spots, but I also think they're at a place as an organization when you're just in the conference title game and with the quarterback that you have that you feel like you're not necessarily having to build through the draft fully. You can go make some moves to close the gap quicker and then, draft what you need after that. But I don't think having 12 picks is what they need at this point. If you can go get a couple stars, which they've done, and you give up some of those picks, then I think that's not a bad trade-off. At least that's the plan, and we'll see if that works for them. We'll see what they do in the next few weeks as far as the draft goes. But I like the splashes so far, and they make sense, and I just hope that these guys are still the types of players that we think of them as and not just shells of themselves.
Tunsil's 30, has a couple years left in a contract, so I don't know if they'll rework that when he gets to Washington or not, and that's the possibility. They had a lot of cap money. My goodness, they had a lot of money to spend, and so that doesn't mean you have to just waste it, but they're making some what appear to be selective moves in spots you have to protect, as Craig said, Jaden Daniels, and, of course, the Deebo Samuel, another toy and a weapon for Daniels, and also offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. So Geno Smith is headed to
the Raiders
to rejoin Pete Carroll. Justin Fields going to, is it Pittsburgh that I said he's going to?
No, he played for Pittsburgh.
What did I just say?
He's going to the Jets.
The Jets, excuse me. I'm sorry. Of course, they've been a mess at quarterback. There's still Aaron Rodgers out there if, in fact, he decides he wants to play. And, of course, Sam Darnold, that's a nice one. Nice move for him to hit up with Seattle with the Seahawks. He had a hell of a year, and then, of course, they melted down in the postseason.
Seahawks needed a quarterback, obviously. Geno's leaving, so that was a place that you needed to focus in on. And Sam Darnold, a good story for him, goes from bust to a little bit of resurgence, and now getting a fat 3-year, $100+ million deal with $55 million guaranteed. So for a guy that looked like he might be out of the league here pretty soon, it was just a bridge guy for the Vikings. Now he's off to brand new territory and with a big fat wallet and big opportunities in front of him. So yeah, that's a nice pickup for him. And then you hope for Seattle as well if you're a Seahawks fan, obviously. But yeah, I mean, another guy the Jets tried to ruin. I mean, just fold the franchise already. So I'm leery about Justin Fields going there. Good luck to you, pal. But yeah, I mean, Darnold looked like he was dead in the water there for a while, and now here he is signing this big, massive deal with Seattle. So good for him. Justin Fields to New York. I always liked him as a player. He's not Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but he also doesn't have very big shoes that Aaron Rodgers left that he'll need to fill. So I think the change in direction for New York was obviously needed. I don't know what happens to Aaron Rodgers, but Justin Fields is a nice pickup. I don't think he's a long-term solution necessarily. But I won't say that I've watched a ton of him to the point that I feel very confident in trying to project him in any type of a way. But I always enjoyed watching him at Ohio State, and a little bit I've seen. I know he's had his struggles as well, but he rebounded nicely with Pittsburgh to an extent, so we'll see what he can do in New York.
He'll also be throwing to DK Metcalf of Seattle, big receiver. The George Pickens on that team already.
No, he won't, because he's in New York now. DK Metcalf's going to Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right.
But nice pickup for the Steelers. Seahawks are going through a transition. I mean, no Geno, no DK. It was a big weekend for the Seahawks, and the DK Metcalf's obviously a freak show. So I think Steelers fans are very excited about that, and I'm sure Justin Fields would have liked to have thrown to him if he was sticking around. But yeah, that was another big move over the weekend, and we'll see what Seattle has in store. I guess as far as just the future goes, but they haven't been sitting on their hands, obviously, as we just talked about with this Darnold move.
So there you are with the NFL, and free agency is just churning. The Metcalf news was a huge story over the weekend, too, as some of them snuck through during the weekend. That's a trade with the free agencies today. That's all the news that we're getting when it comes to free agent signings from today, plus the trades that we've mentioned already as well. When we come back, the 5 o'clock hour, the Boston College schedule was released by Paul and Craig and dissected on Friday. We have Cal, the Bears. They're going to be a part of this week along with many others. And then around the corner, we still have Kendall Paul from East Texas A&M, an unsung, no one knows much about him, but they're getting to know him now with a 4.27 40 at the Pro Day. That and more in his story. This is 365 Sports.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
365 Sports, David Smoak and Craig Smoak. Paul back tomorrow. We're on till about 6 o'clock tonight. Andrew Valade is running the mothership. First time by himself. Garrett's out. Paul's out. Emery is out. And Andrew is running. He's the captain of the ship. A little bit different when there's nobody there, like right there behind you to help a little bit. But we're here, and we appreciate Andrew. He's learned on the fly very quickly, by the way. Andrew Valade with us running today's show on 365 Sports. All right, so Craig, California, the ACC, we've been through what they've done. We started with Boston College. I was out of pocket on Friday. The Cal Bears from the Pac-12 to the ACC and dissect their schedule.
Yeah, so Cal, obviously a team that was enjoying, I guess enjoy is maybe not the right word, that experienced its first year in the ACC. The weird cross-country trips are now going to become commonplace, and so they got that under their belt and actually did okay for themselves ultimately, not really an ACC play, just 2-6 in conference, but did muster up enough wins to make it to a bowl game, finish 6-7. So now it's a matter of, what does year two look like for Cal in the ACC? And I don't quite know what to expect, but we do have the schedule to at least tinker with and look around. So Justin Wilcox and company, I guess, like for anybody just watching, this is not a full-on breakdown. This isn't a season preview. This is just a look at the schedule. So we'll mention things here and there, but we're not focusing in on, like, they've lost 4 O-linemen and they've had second – like, that's just all for later. So this in general, though, I will say the obviously big thing that did happen to Cal this offseason right off top that's worth mentioning was obviously losing Fernando Mendoza, their very talented quarterback, to Indiana. So that was a move that Cal had to deal with. But here is their schedule for 2025. They will open up things with a familiar foe out of the former Pac friendship there. Partnership as Oregon State is up first on the schedule for the Cal Golden Bears as they look to return to the postseason. So traveling to Corvallis on the first weekend of the schedule, and so that ought to be a very familiar road trip, I would think, for some Cal fans, and just a nice little return to what was normalcy there for a little while, playing a team close to home. So you get the first game of the year there against Oregon State, then move on and you take on Texas Southern in the following week, as that sure will pay to beat them up game, basically is what that is. So to Corvallis in week number 1 for an Old Pac matchup, then Texas Southern at home, and then giving them a pretty spicy non-conference schedule. You have Minnesota there in week number 3 on September the 13th. So the Golden Gophers out of the Big Ten. And then you have on September the 20th, this first full month of non-conference games, you have San Diego State on the road, which will be a Pac-12 school here in the near future. But obviously Cal's not in that league any longer. But there you go. There's a little bit of a West Coast flavor on the first and back half of that non-con schedule. So a trip to Corvallis, Texas Southern at home, Minnesota at home, and then a trip to San Diego to take on the Aztecs.
That's manageable. I don't know what to expect for them either. I don't. Losing the quarterback and with Wilcox the head coach, we're not doing that. You drop your head like I'm disappointed with what I said. I don't really know what to expect from them, so I don't know if that's a good matchup, Oregon State or Minnesota, or not.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was just looking over your direction. But regardless, going into the conference schedule on September the 27th, at Boston College is how they will open things up in ACC play. So BC right out of the gates. Still no break at this schedule. Then on the 4th of October, it will be Duke. As you get the Blue Devils there and a couple of ACC games under your belt. So 6 games in a row. and then you will have the bye week. So finally, a bye week. Now, the interesting thing about this schedule for Cal is they still don't have a firm date. At last I looked, and let me double-check real quick. Okay, so they do have that now. That North Carolina game, meeting up with Bill Belichick and company, they'll have a couple of weeks to prepare for that, and it will be North Carolina and Cal on Friday, October the 17th. So a Friday game for the Golden Bears, and it will be 2 in a row for them as they will travel to Blacksburg, Virginia, the following Friday, October the 24th, back-to-back Friday games, Tar Heels and Hokies. So very interesting back-to-back Fridays. I'm not sure that anybody else in the country has that on their schedule. So they'll have, like I said, a week between Duke and North Carolina to get that situated and get ready for the pair of back-to-back Friday games. Then on Saturday, November the 1st, you will have Virginia at home. November the 8th, another Saturday, it'll be at Louisville, and then your second bye week. So bit of a long stretch to start the year. Then you get that first bye week, second week of October, first bye week, second week of October, and then second bye week, third week of November. So it's a bit of a spread out schedule, but it leaves very little on the back end, just 2 games there to close things out after the Louisville game and then a bye. It'll be Saturday, November 22nd. Go to Stanford in a weird West Coast ACC game that we're still getting used to. And then on Saturday, November the 29th, it'll be SMU at home for Cal to close things on out. So, yeah, opening up Oregon State on the road and then closing out with SMU, and just not a schedule that a Cal fan would have understood at all about 2.5, 3 years ago, but it is the schedule they have now, and so that's a look at where they are. Trips to Louisville, Stanford, Virginia Tech, Boston College, San Diego State, Oregon State, so you've got some interesting places to go to, but you are doing a lot of traveling as well, so you'll have 6 home games, 6 road games, a pair of Friday games, and then the rest on Saturday.
I'm trying to still, and I know I need to, but I put my head around the fact they play Cal. That's the 119th meeting between those two schools. They've been playing since 1892. And then you mentioned SMU because they're a part of the ACC, but it's still like the old school Pac-12 game, and then there's SMU. Louisville and Virginia Tech, it's still kind of, when it comes to Cal and Stanford, I think I've come to grips with everybody else that's moved, but the Cal-Stanford, not SMU, but the Cal-Stanford in the ACC is still something for me to still kind of maybe find my way through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique, that's for sure. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, I mean, unless you have anything to add on that. I mean, it's, we've had a whole year under our belts of the Cal-Stanford thing, but I can see where that's still taking some people to get used to.
Let me make it clear. I'll make it. All of the other realignment with Oregon and UCLA and USC and teams that have moved into Washington to the Big Ten, my mind's okay with that, and I'm done with that. That's the way it is. Texas and OU in the SEC, the teams in the Big 12, all of that to me makes sense. SMU even in the ACC, that makes sense. But I'm still at times struggling with the Stanford Cal inside of the ACC. And it was just the way you were talking about those last few games. When you talk about you have Stanford, your longtime 100 and nearly 20-year rival, and then there's SMU to close out the conference schedule with a home game. Those are the two teams that I'm still just not quite so locked in on, that they are in a different conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unique, and it's not the geography that we grew up with, but it's the geography that the TV networks and the money makers wanted. So that's the types of games that we get now and the types of conferences that we have now, and remains to be seen of what that will look like in the future. I guess that could change, although I don't know that, Cal will want to go back to a Pac-12 that has a San Diego State in it or schools like that. So maybe they're in the ACC for the long haul, and 10 years from now it's just like reading the back of your hand. It's just normal. But, I can see where it's still just sort of strange for a lot of people to see some games that would be conference games as non-con games, and some games that you just never expected would be conference games have you traveling out across the country.
MC Gusto saying 3-9 for Cal. That's his note. on what they might finish. Bowl prediction, Justin Wilcox against South Carolina. That's from Jim when it comes to a bowl game. So there's a couple of responses. Your pet cat Meow, winning at NC at North Carolina should be easy. That's late in the year. That's in mid-October.
That's also at home.
Belichick's got that's a home game, but that Belichick may have maybe what he needs by then. Kind of got his team the way he wants them, at least how they're playing. But yeah, that is a home game. Duke at home, Minnesota. They're always just good. They're not great. They're not really good, but they're always pretty good. That'll be an interesting game early on for them, a test. And, of course, anytime you're going to take on a former Pac-12 team like Oregon State, that has some emotions to it, too.
I think the road schedule's pretty fun. I don't know how well Cal fans really travel, especially cross-country, but going to Oregon State ought to be good. Going to San Diego State ought to be good. Going to Boston, that should be cool. Blacksburg, unique atmosphere. Don't know how high the spirit levels are at this point, but it is a trip that somebody like me growing up watching college football in the 90s and 2000s would have enjoyed. And then to Louisville, not a bad trip. To Stanford, I think the road games are pretty kick-ass as far as if you want to travel and go someplace cool. I think you pretty much knocked it out of the park in terms of options. And then the home slate leaves a little bit to be desired. I just don't know how Cal fans are going to feel about Texas Southern. I do know. They won't care. Minnesota, there's some Big Ten flavor there. Duke, I don't know what that, I don't know if they get excited about that. North Carolina with Belichick, that ought to be cool on a Friday night. Virginia, kind of whatever. And then SMU is probably kind of whatever as well, but maybe SMU's fighting for a playoff spot again, and so that would make that a game with a bit more impact. But they do lose Mendoza, and that's a big piece. And there's other details-wise, but like I said, we'll get to that later on in the summer, but Mendoza's worth mentioning right off the top because that was a very good player for you, and now a playoff team went and scooped him up with all that Big Ten money in Indiana, so Kurt Cignetti got him a pretty good replacement for Curtis Rourke, and I'm anxious to see how that goes. But Cal, based on this and not knowing a ton about them just yet, I think bowl game, they're probably flirting with that. I know it doesn't translate 6 and 7, but that's about, that's where they finished, and I don't think they're necessarily better. So, I think bowl game with this schedule is probably the goal, and then anything beyond that, I don't know that you're probably getting too ahead of yourself.
The Minnesota-Cal series, they've played 6 times, and I like when I see a game like that I don't know much about. There's certain Stanford-Cal, we know that. Certain rivalries, we know that they've been playing for a long, long time, but they've only played 6 times. I have no idea about any of that history other than Cal's won 4 of those 6 games. Sometimes there might be a non-conference game or even now with the changes in the conference where somebody's going to play somebody else, and they did a lot of. But in that particular case, no, they have not played Minnesota much with just 6 times, the last time in 2009. All right, around the corner, Kendall Paul. He will join us from East Texas A&M, a young man that lit some people up with his 40 time at a pro day. That story and more. We are 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Paul again will be back tomorrow, and this is 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak. Craig Smoak with me too, and we are every weekday at 3 to 6 Central Time. If you have not hit the like button or subscribe button, we'd appreciate it if you do. And also, if you have subscribed, if you wouldn't mind sharing what we do with others who might be college football fans or also what they like when it comes to sports. This is a great story. Kendall Paul, East Texas A&M out of Commerce from Bishop Dunn High School. I saw this show on my timeline. I went, whoa. And then started doing a little bit of digging and found out Kendall Paul joins us now, in fact, on 365 Sports, thanks to Craig LeBlanc and him setting this up. Hey, Kendall, how you doing, young man?
How you doing? I'm blessed. Blessed to have. I'm thankful you have me on here.
Well, okay, this is a story that there's still many people that may not understand this. You really didn't get much attention out of Bishop Dunn. And you're kind of going about your business at A&M, East Texas A&M. So how did you, Craig and I have talked. I have talked to your agent. So how did you and Craig get connected together during the season last year?
Okay, well, I'll say it happened towards the end of the season around, I had about 5 more games. A friend of mine, my family member knew somebody that was connected to Craig, and they had really liked my film. So Craig, I guess one night he watched it. He watched my film on my huddle from the season just before those last 4 games, and he really liked it. So he called me. I think it was one night before it was a Friday night, and we had a game the next day. He called me. I was going to go to sleep, and he called me. And then he had called. When he called, he was just saying he really liked my film, and that he was the agent, and that he was that he really think I can like he believed in me. He was saying things that I really been saying for myself, and now just hearing it from another person, I was like, I had really liked it. So that's how we got connected.
He told me he was on his way to go to the Oregon-Wisconsin game.
Yeah.
And his friend sent him the video. It's like a 5-minute highlight tape or whatever, just of you playing. And then it was almost midnight. I think his friend called him back. He goes, well, he never calls me twice. What are you doing? And he kind of went over. You need to look at this film. And that's, like you mentioned, he called you very, very late at night. Had anyone contacted you about your pro future at all?
No, sir. It was. Craig was the first one. That's what's crazy. Craig was the first person to talk. But I always had faith. My faith been high. I was like, it's just not my time right now. Like, I know something will come. And it's like, I'm not just making this up. It's so for real. The night Craig called me, I was, like I said, we had a game the next day. I was finna get ready to go to sleep, said my prayer, I prayed that night, and then about to go to sleep, and Craig called me, and I answered. Like, I could have been asleep already, missed the call, but I was up, and he called, and now it's history. The rest is history. Like, now
And
we working.
Josh Hicks, by the way, was Craig's friend
Oh, yeah.
who contacted you that you knew. He knew about you and wanted Craig LeBlanc to know more about you. So, wow, 4.27.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when you run 4.27, you don't just accidentally just like what has been your history in the 40, and when you started to get that thing down below 4.4 and below that now with 4.27.
Yes, sir. Well, I say I always been a track. Like, I always ran track. So running fast, that's just been part of me. Like, and running the 40 with your starts, I always been the first leg in the relays. So that was like an advantage. I knew I'd run real fast in my 40. So when I started my training, my pre-draft training, I always said I wanted to go 4.2. Like, that's always been my goal. Like, 4.3, I know that's fast too, but if I ran a 4.3, I was gonna be a little sick with myself. But yeah, I was just training real hard with my trainers, Mo Wells and Rock Official. And they was just getting me right on my little techniques. They say you already fast. It's just like we gotta teach you the little techniques to make it just better for me to run that 4.2.
So just to make sure, was your pro day on your campus, or was it somewhere? Okay, because sometimes there's alternate places that other schools go and have their pro day. So how many people were there? And then what was it like, the attention after you posted that time?
Yes, sir. It was only they said the Detroit was there too, but I didn't see them. So I only saw the Cowboys there. So, but I said that was great, man. It don't matter that it was just one scout there. I still got to do my thing because I know that the Cowboy, like that one scout, can put it in the system and every team can see. But since then, like, a lot of teams, it's blew up on the media, so a lot of teams been hitting me up now. So.
You have Craig LeBlanc as your agent, and you mentioned those who have been helping you. Have people tried to say, hey, what about me? I need to help you out. And you're loyal to Craig, which is great.
Yes,
he's the one that was there before anybody else. What's that been like with your phone blowing up?
Yes, sir. It'll be like agents like trying to follow me or something like that. But like I'm saying, I'm so like with Craig, like we're doing this together. He found me, and I'm very loyal. So he found me, and we're gonna ride. We're gonna go through this journey together.
There's an Instagram video of someone at the finish line, and they, of course, are clocking your time, and they're checking your time. And then somebody looks up and goes, what did you get? And they said 4.27. He went, wow, like that. Because that's among the one or two fastest counting the combine anywhere, right?
Yes,
as
sir.
far as for this class of 2025?
Yes, sir.
What was the fastest you had run before 4.27?
Before laser time, I did it at my mock combine up at Sports Academy. I ran a 4.34 laser. So I just knew on my pro day for a 4.2 had to come out. And that mock was about a month ago. So I did that a month ago. So I knew I had a month to get my time down a little lower so I can know I can run that 4.2.
The draft, Kendall, as you know, is what, 5-6 weeks away.
Yes, sir.
Players that are prospects sometimes are flown into various places. They wanted you to visit, like the Cowboys. You could just drive down there. That's not that far.
Yes,
just to the west of you. Is any of that even on the radar yet about teams wanting to have you come see them?
Yes, sir. I have talked to a couple teams. I have a private meeting with San Francisco 49ers next week. There's been other schools saying that they want to set up meetings with me, and they just hadn't set the date yet. But yeah, so teams have been setting the days for me to meet with them. Sure.
Are you still in Commerce in school, or are you back in Dallas where you're from?
I already graduated. I'm back in Dallas now. Yes, sir.
So you graduated in the fall?
Yes, sir. Well, I graduated about a year ago. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
wow. So this has been a nice little wait for you then.
Yes, sir.
Good for
Yes,
you to
sir.
get that degree too. Good
Yes,
for
sir.
you to get that degree. So being from Dallas at Bishop Dunn High School, is it automatic that you grew up a Cowboys fan, or was it somebody else?
It wasn't automatic. I say my whole family Cowboy fans, going from my parents, my uncle, auntie, grandparents, everybody Cowboy fans. But I never grew up a Cowboy fan. I never grew up a Cowboy. I grew up being a Steelers fan, really, because my godfather, just going back when we was younger, all the Super Bowl parties was over there, and that's when the Cowboys, they had their little run where they was going to the Super Bowl, and I had really one of my favorite players was Troy Polamalu. So that's really what I really started liking the Steelers, and I just like how the coaching mindset is over there, like defense, like being aggressive. So that's why I really started liking the Steelers.
Troy
But
Polamalu,
I like the Cowboys too.
Troy Polamalu, a Hall of Famer, a physical player.
Yes,
you're a corner,
yes,
but I was told that you're very physical with the way you play, but you're not like built like a safety or anyone like that. You're a corner. That's what you're going to play. Where did the physicality and the way you play come from?
It came from just being, when I was younger, my dad being my first coach, he told me, he said, you're never going to be the biggest. You're never going to be the biggest one out there. So you got to have something to offset that. You got to use your speed, and you have to be tough. So that's just been molded in me since I was little. So I just take that to my game now. Just, you got to be aggressive out there. Just not being the biggest, you got to always just bring it.
So what's your size right now? I don't care what it is, because obviously you have the great speed and you're playing cornerback, but you are physical no matter that. What is your size right now?
5'9", 170.
So what did Deion Sanders call you once when you were hanging around with him?
Yes, sir. He called me Little Darrell Green.
Little Darrell Green.
Yes, sir.
He could fly, man. He was as fast as anybody, even the Olympic sprinters. Have you ever? I probably not. Have you ever met Darrell Green?
No, I never met him. But I used to watch all his videos. I even watched when they don't do it now, but they used to do the fastest NFL player thing. They do the races. Nobody could beat them.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched all the videos of him though. Sure.
He ran down one of the fastest players to ever play, Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
And Hall of Famer, great guy, played at Texas A&I. He came from a smaller school. I don't even like using that term, but he came from a smaller school at A&I and ended up being an amazing player. I watched him. I was at Stephen F. Austin and watched him when he was playing when A&I was so dominant. So what's next? What's on your table? What are you doing now, day to day? What's next for you?
Still working out. Like I can't get comfortable and think I made it yet just because I'm getting this little burn right now, this fire right now. So I'm just gonna keep working and just keep my faith high on like what happened on draft days. Just keep working to draft day, and then if I do get my name called, still work from there. Cause I feel like I still ain't did nothing. I feel like I just want to be one of the best.
I was told you always have a smile on your face, and you do, and that you're very much attached to your family, which is great.
Yes,
where do you get this personality? Is this from the very first time, like when you were just a young kid in diapers? Have you always kind of had this smile and this personality? You have a nickname? Give me a little bit of that.
His personality, I don't know. My mama, when I was younger, she always told me, you got a nice smile. So, smile. So I feel like just smiling, you can tell a lot from a person's smile. So I say, like, with my smile, I feel like you can see, like, I'm a good guy. Like, I'm a very respectful person.
Mm-hmm.
I treat people how I would like to be treated. And which is the nickname, everybody call me KP or KP3.
Right.
That's the nickname for me.
So, you meant KP3. Is that Roman numerals behind your name or
no,
what?
So everybody would think I'm probably like the third, like after my dad, but no, that's not it. Like my dad's name is Kevin Paul. Then I have a big brother, Kevin Paul II. My name Kendall Paul. Well, they call me KP3 because I'm the third KP.
Okay.
Then I have a little brother, Kobe Paul. So they call him KP4. My little sister, KP5. Then my little nephew, KP6, Kevin Paul the third.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. You'll keep it all in the family. Craig LeBlanc, he calls you near midnight, and you have a game. He's on the road to go cover Wisconsin and Oregon. What has he meant to you?
Man, he meant a lot to me. That I don't know. Since that day, like I said, I knew my faith was tied. I knew this day would come. I just didn't know when. So just that night, since then, like even that next day in my game, I was like, oh, like it was just I had a little bit more fire into my game. So I was like, all right, I'm really being watched now. Like I know I'm being watched now. So I gotta put up more tape so I can make, his job easier. Even though I ain't signed yet, but just to know, I was like, all right, I just gotta keep doing my thing. Cause I can only control what I can control. So since then, but everything just Craig been he the GOAT. He the GOAT for sure.
Yeah, I mean he's the one that and Josh Hicks is the one that sent the video out. There's a lot of people taking care of you, having your back, which is great, and you remember everybody that is along the way. Man, it's been fun talking to you. It really has. Favorite meal? How much? What? Like, you go through your daily intake as far as your food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What's your favorite? What's your favorite of those three? And what would you have?
I'll say maybe like dinner time. I love Cajun pasta. I love these Cajun pasta, and one thing another food I love is hot wings. Like, you can feed me some hot wings. I'm not really a big breakfast person though. Like when it comes to breakfast, I don't know. I just never been a big breakfast person. Where I had to start eating breakfast for me to gain, because they said I had to gain some weight. So now I'm starting to eat breakfast, but I just never been a big breakfast person though.
Do you wear contacts, or your eyesight's perfect the way it is?
No, it's perfect the way it is.
Okay, because you cannot have hot wings if you're wearing contacts, because you always. I've been through that experience where you have all that stuff on the hot wings, whatever it is, and then you go to put your contacts or take them out, it'll knock you, and you're like, oh my God, I can't see. What, you have a favorite sauce in your hot wings?
Favorite sauce? Buffalo. I do like
Buffalo, yeah.
Yes,
little spicy, huh?
Yeah, a little spicy, yes, sir.
Hey, Kendall, we are watching you the rest of the way, and it's great that you came up on the radar for me when I saw that you ran the 4.27. It's great that Craig and Josh and others and your parents and everyone taking care of you, and that you're level-headed and understand this is an opportunity. When the combine was going on in Indianapolis, did that bother you that you weren't there?
It didn't bother me because, like I said, everything happened for a reason, but I most definitely watched it. It was just... It really just pumped me up, because I knew my pro day was the week after. But watching that combine, I was just so ready. I was like, so I'm seeing the numbers. I'm like, I knew what I was about to do. So I know I was capable of doing. So I was just ready. It would pump me up. It didn't really bother me that I wasn't. Of course, I would have loved being there, because just being on the bigger stage, just showing. But I just like I said, everything happened for a reason. And the fact that I ran the 4.27 and now everybody's seeing this, it's still like I still feel like the people seeing my 4.27.
Yeah, it's there. It's locked in. It's there forever. Thank you for your time, Kendall. We appreciate Craig LeBlanc and others as well. Appreciate it. Enjoy your day and enjoy all the attention. Stay humble, of course, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. That's Kendall Paul from East Texas A&M in Commerce. It was East Texas State. They had an All-American quarterback there back in the day named Wade Wilson. Harvey Martin, the great Cowboys pass rush specialist who sacked a lot of different quarterbacks in his time. Those are guys, a great name. And then, of course, it became East Texas A&M, which it is now. East Texas A&M Commerce. I've been through there. I've covered a game there or two. And again, it's great to see what Kendall Paul has done with that 4.27. Back in a moment, 365 Sports continues.
You might ask yourself what functional mushrooms are good for. Whether it's lion's mane, cordyceps, turkey tail, shiitake, reishi, they all serve a purpose.
You have ones for neurological health, ones for sleeping and gut health and all these different areas. They pack a powerful punch.
Functional mushrooms are, of the millions of mushrooms and fungi out there, the ones that we can actually ingest and benefit from as humans.
Like all adaptogens, they kind of adapt to what you need at the time that you need them.
We don't even really know that we're suffering. We just don't quite feel right. That's where these adaptogens come in and really start to close the gap and really start getting us closer to how we want to feel.
Functional mushrooms have definitely re-energized me and helped me face each day with a new vigor for life.
Learn ways that functional mushrooms can help you. Go to getumble.com.
You spent hours selecting your patio sofa. Choosing that grill would have taken weeks. Probably your car needed way more time. For sure, you would have spent months mulling over that pool of yours. Protecting your prized possessions needs no time, though. Just visit coversandall.com, create a custom size per your requirements, pick a fabric, and personalize your cover. And leave the rest to us. Premium protection for all that you love.
All right, we're back on 365 Sports with a few minutes to go. There's no top five today with Paul being out, but again, back tomorrow. So the teams that have punched themselves a ticket, they've punched themselves into the NCAA tournament. The Ohio Valley Conference champion is Southern Illinois, the Salukis. This is not Southern Illinois. This is Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, the Cougars, Their first ever tournament appearance is coming up. In the Big South Conference, first time ever, High Point beat Winthrop, who's been to the tournament a few times. In the Atlantic Sun, Lipscomb, the Bisons, they're in. They beat Northern Alabama. They've been there now twice. Missouri Valley Conference, Drake, the Bulldogs, their 8th appearance. They've been 3 consecutive years. And then also the Omaha Mavericks, which has been kind of a fun story this year in college basketball, their first ever appearance, they won the Summit League. There's other conferences that are decided, including the Southern Conference, Sun Belt Conference, among some others that will have their championship games to see who makes the tournament for the first or how many times they have been. I asked the question in the chat room today just a little bit ago. I haven't gotten too much response, but Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and the question is, if you had a biography written about you, what would you want the name of the book to be? If you had a biography written about you, what would you want the name of the book to be? Stormy, Cyclone, Rags to Riches. There's one with him. Also, Road Dog, Top Dog. Kyle Visser, Living Fast and Living Last. Let me see here. From Roger Dodger, Rosebud. Scotty B, the legend of Scotty B. And there's others. If you have that, share that with me in the chat room and let me know a little bit why, what your biography title of the book would be, and also why. Barry Crawford, my biography would be titled What Not to Do for Dummies, from Barry Crawford in the chat room. And Stormy, as I mentioned, said Rags to Riches. Craig, any idea for yours?
No, I don't think I'll ever have one, and never have thought about what the title of it would be. I don't really talk a lot about myself, so I don't think I'm the type that would write a book about myself. Maybe some others in the chat are as well, but they just were quicker coming up with a name. But, yeah, it's something I've literally never given a single second of thought to, and so I would have to kind of tinker on that a little bit because I wouldn't just want to throw something out there.
There's one of the books that's out there, The Leadership Secrets of Nick Saban, is one, by the way. I have ordered that. I love that. There's one by that's not the one that I saw. There's one. What was the one that I saw? He's he's a cook on the Food Network. He might now even be different, where he's now doing. It's not Anthony Bourdain, obviously, because he's passed away. But I've been reading a book from what's it called? Restaurant Impossible. That guy. I'm reading his biography now, and it's awesome about what he's been through and how he started in the business and what he's overcome during his life. So that's one that I'm reading at this particular time. And I'm not a guy that reads many books. I don't. It's hard for me to sit down and just like watch a show or read a book or do something like that. It's just not something that I do. From Stormy, Dragon Slayer. From Sir Blah, Blah, Blah. Mine would be called #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And not sure exactly if you'd already give us your name of what your book would be or not, Sir Blah, Blah, Blah. Not sure. All right, anything else to get to in sports, Craig, before we go?
No, if you're the Dragon Slayer, I guess you're slaying me. Was that how I read that? No, but no, I don't have any idea on what a book would be called. I don't think I'll ever write a book or have one written about me, but I'll give that some extra thought, and I'm just excited for all the NFL free agency moves. I mean, we could spend more time going over that tomorrow. There was a bunch of them today. I'm not sure how active tomorrow will be in comparison to what's taking place over the last 48 hours or so. Been a lot of big moves, and Terrell Bernard was one of those, so it was always great reconnecting with him and talking to Terrell. And just excited as somebody who's not the biggest basketball fan in the world these days because the NBA team I root for just ripped my heart out and stomped on it. And just, I don't know, I'm just not as in regular season focus, maybe because I don't know. I really don't know why. Maybe it's because Baylor's just not like in it, and so it's not as close to home. So I'm like paying attention because it's like literally right there. But for whatever reason, I've just sort of not been as locked into this season, and maybe it's just changing taste as I get older. I don't know, but I'm saying all that to say that I am very excited about the conference tournaments in March, and I do feel some of that like excitement building and brewing, and so love this time of year, love the warm weather, and love that there's also still plenty of football news as well. But yeah, that's all I got. Just looking forward to what the week holds, and hopefully a lot more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, me too. By the way, one of the other free agent signings was Josh Sweat, who had a really big Super Bowl against Kansas City. I think he had a couple of sacks or more against Patrick Mahomes. He is signed with Arizona and got a lot of money from Philadelphia to the Cardinals as they find their pass rush guy that they need for the Cardinals. Now, when we come back tomorrow, I believe Craig Bohl, who is the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association, will be one of our guests tomorrow, among some others that we'll get to between now and then. Emery Winter is working on 365 Sports Tonight, 10:30 tonight on the CW. Andrew Valade. Andrew, thank you very much. Paul and Garrett's out for the rest of the week on a family trip with his daughter up to visit a college campus and also just to enjoy a week off. For Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thanks for your time, and have a great night on 365 Sports.